Hello ladies and gentlemen and movie lovers of all kind, and welcome back to another Sunday Fun Day. Today is going to be another Sunday Fun Day, and it is going to be a new segment called Underrated, Overrated. For our very first Underrated, Overrated, I'm going to be covering the 2017 film Dunkirk. Dunkirk was directed by Christopher Nolan and stars the likes of Tom Hardy and Harry Styles. And the story essentially is it just chronicles the event of Dunkirk, which occurred in World War II when about 400,000 Allied troops were trapped on the beaches of Dunkirk while the Axis forces pushed in. I'm going to just tell you right where I stand with this movie right away. That way there is no beating around the bush and we just get right into it. And that is that I think Dunkirk is overrated. Now I know, of course, you might be coming at me already, but before you light your torches or sharpen your pitchforks, because I know so many people love this movie, of course, let me discuss. Because the whole purpose of these Sunday Fun Days, guys, is to get you guys involved, get you guys talking. That is what the comments section is for. That is what I'm here for. I want to have some back and forth. That is what it's all about. It is to get you talking, whether you agree with me, disagree with me, but most importantly, why. So let's get the conversation going. To start, I just want to say very quickly, of course, there are a lot of positives about Dunkirk. Right out of the gate, it is one of the most beautiful movies you will ever lay your eyes on. It is probably the best movie you can buy on 4K right now. Next is the use of practical effects. There was almost no green screen in this movie. Well, of course, there was green screen in this movie. There's green screen in every movie nowadays. But it wasn't just like some movies, they like to recreate kind of like the decks of ships and then the rest is CGI. But this wasn't this movie at all. They used real planes, they used real boats, they were actually there in the water, they were on the beaches, they were in the streets. Next is the sound design in this movie, because again, this might be the best sound design I've ever heard in a movie. It feels so realistic. You feel like you are actually there experiencing these things. They absolutely killed it. But of course, those are things that Christopher Nolan is all well known for. That's why his movies are so successful, and that is why he's one of the best directors working in the film industry today. And even I myself can argue that point, because I love almost all of his movies. I would say all, but we're here at Dunkirk. I do not hate this movie by any means. I just think it's extremely overrated. Just to give you a brief idea, on Metacritic this has a 94, on Rotten Tomatoes it has a 92, it won 3 Oscars, and it had many more nominations. It was nominated in almost every category. I think it was tied with the most, or definitely up there somewhere. So this movie is loved by critics especially. So let me break down why it does not deserve this praise. To start, the movie has no story. Now I know I said the story is, but the story is it's just chronicling an event, and that is just documentary style. That's not a story. Okay, Saving Private Ryan, World War II, has a story. Black Hawk Down has a story. Lone Survivor has a story. Every other war movie has a story. It has a story you can follow. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. All those movies I just named do. This movie does not. It kind of just happens. It tries to chronicle the whole event, and for me, that's not interesting. I want to see that in a documentary in history class. I do not want to sit here and watch an almost 2-hour movie on it, because that's just uninteresting to me. I have to have something I can follow along with. I feel like a lot of other people are like that too. Next is the fact that this movie has no characters. You don't know any of the characters' names, and with it having no characters' names, there's no defined hero, there's no group of heroes. That means you have nothing to latch onto, which leads to having no emotion whatsoever. Okay, with Saving Private Ryan, you have Tom Hanks and his crew, you follow them along. The Lone Survivor, you have the crew. Same thing with Black Hawk Down. Even something like Hacksaw Ridge, where you're just following along Andrew Garfield the whole movie. You have to have the hero or heroes to gravitate towards. You have to have someone to care for. You have to be interested and intrigued by the story. This movie has none of that. You don't know any of these characters' names. I don't even know if they're ever mentioned. There's no story to follow along. It's just kind of the event as a whole. There are also very long stretches of this movie where there's no dialogue. It's just completely silent, and I get that there probably wasn't a lot of dialogue or anything like that in the actual event, but the thing is, this is a movie and you were supposed to be interested, you were supposed to be intrigued. That does not happen in this movie whatsoever. And next is the fact, guys, that this movie isolates its audience so much. It has terrible, terrible audience management. What I mean by that is that everyone described this movie as best being seen in IMAX. Well, what if you're like someone like me, who doesn't have an IMAX theater anywhere near them? The closest IMAX theater to me is 5 hours away. I saw this at my local drive-in. I know drive-ins aren't a big thing anymore, but if you have a drive-in, that's not bad. It's a pretty big screen, or see it in theaters. But the point is, if you don't see it on any 3 of those screens, you're not going to get the same effect. When I watched it at home the other day, it doesn't have the same effect. It's still beautiful to look at, but it does not do the same thing to you that it does when you see it in a drive-in, presumably an IMAX theater or in a regular theater. Now, of course, every single reviewer and critic saw this movie in IMAX or on a giant screen, so all these huge, amazing, immense scores came from seeing it in the theater. But if they all would have waited, say it was a direct-to-video movie, it wouldn't have gotten the praise. That's what makes their audience management so poor, is the fact that maybe people don't have theaters near them. Maybe they just don't like the theaters. They don't like crowds. Maybe they just think the theater's too expensive. They watch that home, they're not going to enjoy that movie anywhere near as much as when you see it on a big screen. And last, guys, just my point that this movie confuses me, because Christopher Nolan is known for his character pieces. You have the Dark Knight trilogy, you have Interstellar, you have Inception. These movies focus on their characters so heavily, but I don't hate this movie. I just found it was really boring and did not deserve anywhere near the amount of praise that it got. Like I said, it's a beautiful movie, the sound design is phenomenal, the practical effects are great, but the negatives, guys, they stack up way too high in this movie for me to understand why. Why is it so praised? Why did it get so many Oscar nominations? Why is it Christopher Nolan's highest rated film? Because it has a 94, and the next closest to it on his film list is The Dark Knight, the 4th highest rated movie on IMDb by audiences. The Dark Knight only has an 82, so Dunkirk beat this by 12. I'm just as confused as you are. But like I said, guys, the movie has no story, it has no real characters, therefore you have nothing to latch on to. The movie has no emotions, it is essentially just a really expensive, fancy documentary. I don't understand why it's so praised and popular. Maybe you do, but enlighten me. So guys, that was my first underrated, overrated, and of course, if you like this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and let me know, guys, because this is what it's all about. The Sunday Fundies are meant to get you talking, so let me know. Do you agree with me or disagree with me? And of course, the most important part of that is why. Let me know why. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and that's a wrap.